So the Ayatollah and the top generals in Iran are doubling down, saying that they can strike down the US carriers in the region. And I'm going to react to this insane propaganda video here in a second. You guys are going to want to stick around and see that. And then I'm going to do a hypothetical situation should Iran actually try to take down the carrier. So stay to the end of the video for that. But Iran's supreme leader just dropped another bombshell, and he said that they would send those massive warships straight to the bottom of the Persian Gulf. On X, Ayatollah Khamenei posted, "The Americans constantly say they've got a warship headed towards Iran. Of course, a warship is a dangerous piece of military hardware. However, more dangerous than that warship is the weapon that can send the warship to the bottom of the sea." And then his crony, his little buddy, the IRGC Navy commander, Brigadier General Ali Fadavi, went full throttle on state TV, and he said, "Let them bring all their carriers. Our missiles are thirsty and our waters are ready. The first American ship that fires a shot will never leave the region alive," is what he said. And then senior IRGC guys are bragging that they can turn carriers to scrap metal in under 7 minutes. They say that one precision missile does the job, and state headlines scream, "The Persian Gulf is the graveyard of American arrogance." This is all heating up right before the next round of Geneva Nuclear talks. And then some breaking news out of the Trump administration regarding General Raisen Kane. There's been a lot of talks, potential reluctance of war. Here's what President Trump said. He said, "Numerous stories from the fake news media have been circulating stating that General Daniel Kane, sometimes referred to as Raisen, is against us going to war with Iran. The story does not attribute this vast wealth of knowledge to anyone and is 100% incorrect. General Kane, like all of us, would like to not see war. But if a decision is made on going against Iran at a military level, it is his opinion that it will be something easily won." So again, when it comes to generals right now, we've got generals in place in the US military that are there because of merit. They're there because they're really good at their job. That's the only reason they're there, and it's amazing to have generals like that. But generals are going to be reluctant with war. That's their entire job. To give every single way that this could play out to the president, to the commander-in-chief, to let them know that this won't be a cakewalk. So just because a general wants to give all the information about what could possibly be faced on this battlefield, because the war in Iran is going to be intense. It's going to be way more of an operation than in Venezuela. I've studied Iran for over 10 years in my military career. Again, it won't be a cakewalk, but I agree with General Raisen Kane. It will be easily won initially, and then it comes down to what happens after. Because again, 150,000 Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps members who are radicalized by radical Islamic clerics from the Ayatollah's inner circle. So what are you going to do with those guys? And even presidents like Abraham Lincoln had a team of rivals around them to give all the truth data on what would be faced by the US military. And this is something I've been thinking about lately. At this point, we're basically seeing the plot line of the movie 300 play out. Because in the movie 300, they essentially had the Ayatollah and the Ayatollah's hordes, and the boss of those hordes basically said that he would sacrifice all his men to protect himself. And that is what the Ayatollah, the president of Iran, the inner circle, their whole goal is to protect the actual regime itself. So they're willing to literally let every single other person in their country, specifically those people that want freedom, to just be eradicated so that their regime survives. They're also willing to let the 150,000 members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps be evaporated as long as they survive. They don't care about them. And then when it comes to that battle with the 300, the Spartans stood up, and the leader of the Spartans said that they would gladly sacrifice their own life to protect all their men. And that comes with prudence in warfare. And again, you can see the two different sides playing out. But now let's dive into that Iranian propaganda video about how they can easily take down the carrier. You guys are going to love this. So here we go, my friends, the Iranian propaganda carrier video. You can see the aircraft on that don't even make sense. They're AI-generated aircraft on the carrier. There's a Shahed drone. Oh, there we go. They got a stereotype. They'd missed the mustache on the fighter pilot, though. Oh, yeah, then two little baby engines inside the main engine of the F-35. That makes a lot of sense. So they're recreating the shoot down of the Shahed drone, which happened. Yeah, there we go. That's what pilots do. We just smile. We're doing TikToks inside the cockpit. Yeah, good representation. Oh, there we go. The engine is actually one engine now. Here's the carrier strike group representation. Oh, Iranian mines. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and then the carrier is actually already underwater as this torpedo comes up. Yeah, it's new technology, a carrier that's already submersed. And then, yeah, the Iranian mine that's attached to a cable, they just stooge right into it. Yeah, I'm sure the US Navy is not going to do any type of anti-mining operations. Yeah. And then, oh yeah, the carrier's going down. Everything's going down all at the same time from that one mine. And even the F-35. The F-35 pilot's like, I just can't take it anymore. It's just so sad. I can't take it. And then the landing gear are down on the F-35. Awesome. No ejection out of the F-35 pilot. Wow, everything just goes down all at once from that one mine. Wow. Oh man. It looks like some barnacles already have formed. Like the carrier basically has been underwater for 30 years already. So interesting. This is the stuff they're pumping into the brains of their people. And then some more breaking news right now. This is Chania Airport in Crete just yesterday. So you can see right there, those beautiful A-10s. I'm so glad we didn't get rid of the A-10. These A-10s are there. There's a C-17. Ooh, there in the background, you can see a C-130 and then F-35s, multiple F-35s. That's a KC-46 refueling tanker. So basically a little mini Air Force right there in Crete. I mean, that would be a nice location to be deployed to as well. More KC-46s. F-35's massive firepower buildup in the Middle East. This doesn't bode well for Iran. I don't think Iran understands. They think that they're going to have impunity to go in and strike a U.S. carrier, as we just saw in that propaganda video. Well, meanwhile, these little mini air forces have been dotted all around them. They're going to have a little something to say about that. And at this point, this buildup's got more tension than a couple that can't keep their hands off each other after an argument. Yeah, it's hot, but there's nothing healthy about it. Now let's break down Iran's playbook, because they're not bluffing entirely. They've built a real asymmetric force for confined waters, small places like the Persian Gulf, and that 21 nautical mile wide choke point in the Straits of Hormuz. Weird. See, that's also another 300 reference with the gates that were being defended by the Spartans. But in this case, the Spartans are going to be the US carriers, the US Navy, and the US Air Force. But the first layer that Iran is going to try to use will be saturation strikes with anti-ship ballistic missiles like the Khalij Fars, which is said to have a 150 nautical mile range, optical terminal guidance that could lock onto a carrier's hot superstructure is what they say and what they claim, and cruise missiles including the Noor, Ghadir, Nasser, Kausar, and the big one, the Abu Mahdi, which they say can have over a 500 nautical mile range, and they claim it has AI assisted navigation, stealth features. They say they can launch those from mobile coastal batteries, islands, and then especially the container ships, the disguised commercial vessels that are actually packing heat from the Iranian Navy. And then the Iranian fast boats and drone swarms. I'm pretty much calling this at this point the Mosquito Fleet, because they've got over 1,500 fast attack craft, armed speedboats that can swarm out of hideouts, or they can mix them in with civilian traffic. And their whole goal is to load as big of a missile as possible onto those fast boats. So they want to fire short-range rockets, missiles, and then they want to launch suicide drones from those actual fast boats as well. And then those fast boats would even try to ram or even drop torpedoes. Submarines under the water pack somewhat of a punch, so you can't discount them completely. And that is the Ghadir and Nahang midget subs that they would try to use for ambushes, plus 3 kilo class boats with potentially heavyweight torpedoes and sub-launched missiles. And don't sleep on the mines. They're obviously going to try to mine as much of the Straits of Hormuz as possible and try to disguise their mines, because as we saw in that propaganda video, they literally think there would be no anti-mining operations from the US. They would just stooge the carrier right over top of thousands of mines from the Iranian regime. That's the level of hubris at this point. It's essentially like you're dealing with a child that's like, no, I'm not leaving the playground and I'm in charge of you, Dad. But their mining stockpile isn't small. They're said to have 5,000 to 6,000 of those mines, from basic contact type mines to advanced bottom influence, acoustic, and magnetic mines that are deployable from small boats, submarines, and they want to use covert operations to try to trap ships into what they call kill zones. So in their mind, if they can force the carrier to avoid a certain region and put the carrier in a place where it's more susceptible to being shot by their anti-ship missiles, that's their entire goal. And they want to be able to predict the path of the carrier. So they're going to try to mine certain areas, guide the carrier in and try to predict where the carrier is actually going to go. So Iran's talking big and they're stacking a few threats, but at this point it feels like that 45-year-old that never left their parents' basement and they're just trying to intimidate people online. Their chat room game is really tough. So Iran's overall goal is going to be hybrid defense and offense. They want to try to exhaust US defenses and they want to try to overwhelm the Aegis radars of the US Navy. So they think if they can get that mosquito swarm up there of not only fast attack boats but also drones, they think then at that point the US Navy won't know how to handle it and then they'll be susceptible to the submarines and the mines that Iran is going to have lurking below. So they're thinking that even if they don't sink the carrier outright, they think they can do some sort of damage to the escorts, they can disrupt logistics, or they could just mine the Straits of Hormuz as a sort of insurance. They think they can stop the flow of oil, and then if the US tries to come in and do anything, they think they could actually take down those naval vessels. So in Iran's mind, this isn't just rhetoric, it's designed to make the US military and the US think about any moves they make because Iran wants to make any move as painful and expensive as possible. I feel like at this point, the Ayatollah has a weird thing for the carrier going on. He's like, hey carrier, I love you. No, I hate you. Why don't you ever call me anymore? But the US is going to have a vote here as well. And that's something that Iran never includes in their propaganda videos. The US is going to counter with integrated multi-domain dominance, staying in a standoff position, likely in the Persian Gulf when possible, using layered defenses like the Aegis destroyer and cruisers that are going to be packing some heat, baby. The SM-2, SM-3, SM-6 missile for the ballistic threats. And then the ESSM, the C-RAM, the Evolved Sea Sparrow missile for you acronym junkies. Those will be used for more close-in stuff. And then you've got the E-2D Hawkeye and F-18s and F-35s in the region as well. The E-2D Hawkeye can give that early warning of that mosquito swarm coming in. And then hopefully F-18s, F-35s loaded out with those anti-drones, APKWS, anti-drone rockets. Also, Strike Eagles in the region that could be used to protect the ship as well. Multiple sorties of F-15Es that are going to be loaded down with 60 plus APKWS rockets, slaying all day long that drone swarm. Taking down that drone swarm, swatting them away, essentially like the F-15Es are going to be up there. They're going to be those electronic bug zappers, just bzz, 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 taking down drone after drone after drone. And then you add that in to the power projection of the US Navy, teaming up with F-35s. And don't sleep on the F-22. So this is pretty sweet, seeing some F-22s blasting off. This was reported about an hour ago from the time of this video being released. 3 F-22s taking off from RAF Lake and Heath. They say they're headed towards the Middle East, highly likely at this point with all we've seen going on. And then electronic warfare. So think about decoys, directed energy systems to burn or jam through incoming threats. And then something we're going to talk about in a follow-on video, but I'll give you a little teaser here, is the lamprey. That's Lockheed Martin's undersea parasite that latches and waits. This thing is going to be the Iranian Navy's worst nightmare. They're not even going to see it coming. I mean, these things can go down to the seafloor, embed themselves, and just wait for that little Iranian sub that thinks it's going to have impunity to go in and strike the carrier, and that little sea leech will have something to say about that. But again, we'll do a full breakdown on that. Literally the Iranian Navy's worst nightmare. That'll be a full video. I can't wait to do that. So now let's talk about a section that I like to call 4D chess, and my goal is to say 4D chess in every video. But one of the goals would be to win without firing a shot. That would be one of the main goals, but Iran's threats are trying to be coercive to the United States. They want to scare the US into concessions at Geneva while projecting strength domestically. But the US buildup is classic escalation dominance, showing overwhelming power to hopefully force some sort of a deal. But we've talked about this before, okay? Iran makes some sort of a deal like they made before. Iran made a deal during the Obama administration where they wouldn't refine uranium. They wouldn't have a nuke. So they took a whole bunch of money from lifted sanctions, and instead they built thousands of ballistic missiles. So yeah, Iran was like, no, we're good. We won't build a nuke, don't worry. But we're gonna build 5,000 ballistic missiles. So again, as you can see, the rhetoric in Iran and their ability to negotiate in good faith just isn't there. They're basically going to say, yeah, look over here. And then they're that little snake that sneaks in behind when you don't see it coming. And in my opinion, the US knows this. We've got top generals that are there because of merit. We've got an administration now, and this isn't even political, but we've got people whose leadership is matching up with the military's ability to enact shock and awe and professionalism on an enemy. And it's all based on merit. It's all based on how good are you at your job, and are you a warrior or are you not? That's the entire goal of the US military, to win wars. And I think we're in a position right now to not allow Iranian shaky negotiations to sway the US away from taking down a regime that has enacted evil across the world for decades. That moves us to the hypothetical situation, my friends. So let's say for some reason a limited strike begins. So a massive salvo would launch from the carrier strike group, from submarines, striking Iranian nuclear sites first, and then taking down IRGC headquarters. You've got to take down a lot of the IRGC because most of them are going to be radicalized. At that point, what you're going to see is a salvo from Iran. Their mosquito swarms, their different missiles, their whole goal would be to saturate. So the main thing the US would have to do is deal with that saturation. You've got the Aegis system on the ships, likely some directed energy weapons, hopefully a lot of directed energy weapons in that carrier strike group, striking through, being interceptors that can strike down the actual missiles that Iran is going to fire to US bases, naval assets, Tel Aviv, etc. And then you got those F-15Es blasting off to pepper down and strike down that mosquito swarm. So again, Iran's rhetoric, level 11. What do you guys think plays out? What do you think would happen in a force-on-force situation? And what do you think the supercarrier's main role would be in taking down the Iranian regime? Drop your takes in the comments below. Would love to hear what you guys think. If you want to see me do a live every week, join the Max Ready Room. There's a link in the description. I'll see you on that live. And then follow me on X, follow me on Instagram. I'm posting there pretty much every day. And go ahead and watch this next video that pops up right here. That really helps the channel grow, and I would greatly appreciate it. So I'll see you on this next video right here. This is Ryan, also known as Max Afterburner, signing off.